Wow. Okay. Now, the proposed budget for this year, 2014, is $29 billion, slightly lower than last year. That's about 4.5 trillion.
It's 4.6 actually.
4.6 trillion naira. And for reasons according to the Federal Ministry of Finance is that because of oil theft, this is why it's slightly lower. What are the likely effects of this reduction? Did you hear about that?
I really don't think that is a reason, but obviously there is the issue of crude oil theft, which has really affected our revenue.
Yes.
We had to dip our hands into our foreign reserves going through 2013, and a lot of MDAs were complaining about allocations not getting to them, which is a vital problem. I mean, we cannot shy away from that, and we know that the federal government has increased its security allocations to the Ministry of Defense as it is.
Yes.
I think to curb the Boko Haram insurgency and also look at issues in the Niger Delta, and that is a major source of revenue for Nigeria.
Yes.
We cannot shy away from that. So if that continues to deplete, then we might not be able to do the things we want to do. But if you say that is the reason why you're creating a smaller budget, then you have a larger recurrent expenditure, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you know that you might have less money, you might have less income, and you're spending more money on things like wages, bills, travel. I mean,
so you're advocating that why not cut down on the recurrent expenditure?
Exactly. I mean, let's look at it this way. One of the government's major touting points is the fact that we have a lot of FX coming into Nigeria.
Yeah.
It is true, but it's only half of the story. Now, the other half of the story is that there's also a lot of FX going out of the country every month. Now, the reason why that is happening is because much of that money is coming into Nigeria as FPI, which is the foreign portfolio investment. And that goes directly into our stock market, bond market, and things like that. And that is slightly liquid. So basically, people tend to put their money in, get the short-term return, and take it out, and it happens like that. But what we really need to grow Nigeria is foreign direct investment. People who look at Nigeria and say, okay, I want to go into Nigeria and I want to create factories. I want to go into Nigeria and I want to create industry. So they're looking at long-term investment as against what is happening on the short term. Now, that will not happen unless we start to create infrastructure.
Okay. So that means we need to increase our capital investment now.
Exactly. I mean, it's for me, Nigeria is at the point where it's like the bride of the world. Everybody's looking at Nigeria as the place to go to for short-term investment. You can see that with the amount of money that comes into Nigeria on a monthly basis. But these people don't visit Nigeria, but they base their judgment on the facts and figures they see. We have one of the highest returns on our bond markets in the world. We have about between 12 and 14%. I mean, that is crazy. In the US, it is between 2 and 4%.
Wow.
So, I mean, that is a massive leap. So they will keep bringing money here on the short term. But the doing business in Nigeria ratings is very terrible. People will want to come and do business in Nigeria because they feel we won't have power. I mean, that is a basic factor.
Yes.
We want to applaud the federal government for doing the power reforms, but that is an ongoing process. It will take a long time. We do not have key roads. The federal government is trying to do stuff on that and trying to create a real network, which I applaud the federal government for, but it's going to take 25 years.
Okay.
I probably would be... Okay, let's not go to that. Let's not go into that.
I was waiting for you to tell me that. Just do a calculation and get your age.
Let's not go into that. But basically, what we really need to be pushing, because I was infuriated when I heard about the budget and when I saw Madam Okonjo-Iweala on TV speaking about the fact that it was a budget to create jobs and inclusive growth. But the thought at the back of my mind is, what we need is to move forward. We have anchored long enough. We want to applaud Lamido Sanusi for creating fantastic banking reforms to stabilize our financial sector. Madam Okonjo-Iweala has been able to fiscally create a manageable economy. We have one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios in the world, 19%. You want to put it side by side South Africa, which has 50% of debt to GDP. Italy has 170%. I mean, so you can tell. Nigeria has a very manageable debt to GDP ratio. But that on its side, we need to create infrastructure to make the economy work. Right now, the economy is growing, but it is fragile. Wow. Who wants to have that?
And it's no long-term investment.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so now the federal government has set expected government revenue for 2014 at 3.73 trillion naira and a deficit of 1.9% of the GDP. And it means we're spending more than we're making during the year. And taken from the excess crude oil account reserve, is that what the nation should do at the moment?
That is slightly inaccurate. It's 1.9% of budget. It's 1.9% of the budget. The deficit is actually as against the budget, which is our deficit to our budget is very reasonable. It's 1.9%. South Africa has about 10%.
Wow.
But that is not the issue.
Okay.
The issue for me is that what we have as a 2014 budget, it looks like a document that is incomplete. Why I'd say that is because, okay, I'll say this. If you look at, we're looking at the rail sector, and the federal government says it plans to put in some certain amounts into rail, which about 50% is going to recurrent expenditure.
Okay, yes.
But the body language of the federal government and with the medium-term expenditure framework, which is the plan that we use to develop our budget, says that we're going to invest heavily into the rail sector. It also says we're going to invest heavily into agriculture. It says we're going to invest heavily into creating roads. But that is not in this 2014 budget.
Why?
What that means, relatively, is that the government is either looking to leverage, as it will be, on maybe loans from here and there, and to create these things. Now, what that speaks to me is that the federal government has at its back of its mind that it's going to spend more money than is actually in this budget. It's going to get more revenue than is actually in this budget. So why are you giving us this particular document?
That's the question.
That is a question for the federal government, not for me. I'm just asking the question.
So are you thinking that this budget is probably the budget to just show us, and not the actual budget to run the country?
Between you and I, okay, we're on TV. Yes, I think that is it. Because the federal government is looking to do a lot more than it's saying in that budget. The Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture got the same allocations they got in 2013. And these are the major drivers, as it will be, of those particular industries that are going to create job and inclusive growth. And how do you expect to help them to expand their tentacles if you're not going to give them more allocations? You are looking for them to borrow more money to invest into these areas. And at the end of the day, that means we're going to spend more money. Last year alone, 2013, right? The 2013 budget came out and it was 4.9 trillion naira. Okay. But in 2013, of what I was able to dig up, we borrowed 142 billion naira from external sources for things like agriculture, education, the health sector. That is excluding 96 billion naira, which we put into the national railway, national high-speed rail transport sector. Now, this is coming to about 200 plus billion, which wasn't in the 2013 budget.
Okay.
And I would want to believe that the federal government knew they were going to make this expenditure and they were going to get this money at the beginning of the year.
But it didn't tell us about it.
Exactly.
So we're having the same thing happen in 2013.
Exactly.
Wow, okay. That is interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the capital votes now. Do you think we need to know the breakdown of these capital votes?
Yeah, we really need to know. The National Assembly has been asking about it for a while. But the way it is that the capital vote is more like an in case stuff happens kind of money. Okay. So it's not something you can tell at the beginning.
But did we get the breakdown of 2013's capital vote?
We got something. We got something.
Okay.
And you know, the thing is this, I would say this, the federal government is doing quite a bit. I know that they are doing quite a bit, but they make it difficult for people around to be able to understand what they're doing. It's like they're trying to play Houdini at the same time explain things to us. I basically wrote an article about the 2014 budget, and I got somebody who is an aide in the federal government to look at it, and he was like, okay, they would put that into a speech that might be coming up in I shouldn't have said that. But I shouldn't have said that. But at the end of the day, it shows that the government is listening, because from NOI polls, which did a poll asking what the people want the government to do, and the major needs from that poll on the hearts of Nigerians were jobs, security, and electricity. Yes. Job security and electricity, and you would see from 2014 budget, security, the Ministry of Defense had the largest allocation of about 320 billion Naira, I think. So it shows that the federal government is listening. But I think we need to have more discussions like this to be able to let the government know that, okay, you have done quite well, but you've not let us know everything that we should know, and we need to know more, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Okay, so when we come back, we're going to go on a quick break. But when we come back, we want to discuss about, because government generate the money to secure the budget through expected income. Yeah. We're going to look at oil, because almost the entire budget is may be executed or should be executed from crude oil money.
Yes.
So when we come back on this break, we're going to go into that. I'm still here with Tunji Andrews. I'll be right back after this break.